Today we'll be talking about Sarracenia flowers and how to pollinate them. So you can see a few examples here in front of you. You can see they come in a variety of colors. You have yellow ones, red ones, orange ones, green ones, but the general appearance is more or less the same. Okay, so maybe let's start just with the general introduction to flower parts, like basic botany, like from school. So let's take a look at this nice big guy. Okay, so first of all, we'll go from outside to the inside of the flower. Okay, will this focus? Let's see. Yes, much better. Okay, so first on the outside we have bracts. Bracts are like all the flower parts. They are basically just leaves that evolved to do some other function apart from photosynthesis. So bracts are just the outside little leaves that are below the flower itself, and they look most like the common green leaves. Common green leaves. We know that the true leaves in Sarracenia, they are actually the traps, right? Okay, so after bracts, we have these guys, this around here. There is 5 of them in general. You see that here one is a little bit smaller. If you look at this flower, they are all the same size. You see the bracts, and then these 5 guys around. These are called sepals. So these are the outer parts of the flower itself. Their function is to protect the inner parts and protect the flower bud before it opens. Then we go one tier lower, and we see these soft, colorful guys. These are the ones that are in general most brightly colored. Here they are yellow. These are the petals. Petals fall off after pollination or after flower senescence, so after the flower is like too old, whether it's pollinated or no, actually. So petals, their function is to attract pollinators. Not in all plants, of course. You can have a lot of flavors of this, a lot of variation, but in general, petals, and in Sarracenia specifically, especially, the function of the petal is to attract pollinators just by the color. Then we have to, first we see this umbrella. This is actually called an umbrella, but we'll leave this for now because we are going into the flower. This yellow stuff, let me get some forceps so I can show you better. Okay, so these yellow things here, wait a sec, yellow things here, these are anthers. They are attached to filaments, which you see here behind, and these are all male parts of the flower. There's something falling out of the anthers. You can see this here. This is pollen. Right, this, if an analogy to animals would be that this is like sperm. It's not. It's a bit more complicated in plants, but let's leave it for now. But basically this is the stuff that you need to pollinate the flower to get seeds. Male part of the flower. So filament, anther, and pollen that comes out of the anthers. Then we have this big thing here. If we try to get closer, we need to move these guys a little bit, if we can. This is so soft, I don't want to squish anything. So anyway, you see there is like this round ball in here, green one. It has a little neck, and then there's the umbrella. This whole thing, from this green thing to the umbrella, this is all the female part. This green thing here, this is the ovary. If the flower is pollinated, the ovary develops into the fruit capsule. The ovary contains ovules, and ovules, if pollinated, they develop into seeds. The ovary is not just like it's hollow inside when it's ripe, and there's a few hollows, five of them I think. So each part of the ovary it's called a locule. Then this whole thing is actually called an umbrella, and umbrella has, you see, it's like a star. So even this shows that there is 5 spaces inside the ovary. Then at each of the ends of this star, let me just turn this around and focus if we can. Okay, so this here actually is the stigma. I would really like to show you this precisely, just if my phone will cooperate. Okay, if we turn it around, you can see how it's like a little knob up here. So now we know the flower parts. Yeah, okay, before we go further, what is the function of the umbrella? It's very interesting actually, and I don't know for any other example except Sarracenia. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's something else, but I just can't remember any other plant that does this. So the function is to guide and protect actually the pollinators. So the pollinators would crawl inside the flower like this in search of nectar or even pollen. They eat pollen also, it's full of protein. And then they would just go out. So while crawling inside, the pollinators obviously pollinate the flower. Not that they want to, but just they bring pollen with them or just pollinate the flower by its own pollen. Both are possible. So the umbrella just makes it a little bit more difficult for them. They need to go past the stigma, so they drop off the pollen. They need to go out again to again drop off some pollen. But at the same time, this protects them from falling into the traps. Remember again, Sarracenia are carnivorous. Their leaves would be below the flower, in some species actually above. For those where the traps are below the flower, any insect that would fall doesn't have a chance to just fly away at like fast enough, so it could just fall into the trap. Again, some species, what they did, they just have traps that are taller than the flowers, or flowers are shorter than the traps. So again, there is this spatial distance between the flower and the trap. Again, remember the trap actually, the pitcher, it imitates the flower. So both the flower and the pitcher are competing for the same insects in this occasion. It's not like with sundews where totally different insects pollinate flowers or are caught by traps. No, in Sarracenia is the same types of insects. There is one exception to this, of course, Sarracenia aureophylla. I mentioned it before. It flowers at the same time as it grows the traps, and it will just happily munch on its pollinators. With most others, of course, they flower, look at this, they flower before they grow any traps. You see, I cut off the dead traps from last year, and this year's traps are just developing. And this is with most species. Okay, yeah, so now we learned about the flower parts. What we can do now is just show what you need to do to pollinate this thing. So, of course, if you pollinate one species or one clone with itself, or something that is genetically really similar, so either a seedling from a same cross or something, you will get plants that are very similar. And since it takes like 5 years or something for Sarracenias to start flowering, when they grow from seeds. Actually, it might be more interesting to just cross-pollinate them, because then your 5-year-long wait will result in possibly some new hybrids, something different from the mother or the father species. But as you wish. I mean, I also started just by trying to pollinate like whatever was flowering, just to see how this works and what I need to do. So what I learned, what you will learn right now, is very simple. You need, let me show you, you need a paintbrush. And you go into the flower. It's so simple. You go into the flower, the one that already has ripe pollen, like this one. You collect the pollen on the paintbrush. Let me see if you can see this. Wait a sec. Yeah, you see this little dust? So this is pollen. As much as you can get, you know, as much as you can get. And then usually it's like this. The style is ripe as soon as the flower opens, or shortly after the flower opens. And then it's just either not receptive anymore or not receptive very well to the pollen. So best thing would be to collect, yeah, and pollen is ripe a bit later, and you can find it until the flower senesces, so until the flower dies basically. Best thing is to get ripe pollen as soon as it's falling out like this, and get a flower that has just opened. I will just show you on this one because you're already familiar with how it looks, but it would be younger flower. Then you just expose the style. You remember where we saw it, this little knob here, this little knob, and you just brush. Yoi! If this would focus. Hopefully, you just brush over the little knob. And repeat this on each of the stigmas. Of course, you can do something interesting. If you don't have a lot of these plants, or you just want seeds out of one flower, you can pollinate each stigma with pollen from a different father plant. And what you will get is different sorts of hybrids from each part of the flower. I suggest, of course, that you mark which cross you made, and marking, if you do each one separately, might be a little bit more difficult. Maybe just tie something on or whatever. But you can get very different plants from each part of the fruit once it's ripe. Yeah. What will the flower look like like after a few months when this is all ripe? You will still have these guys, the sepals. They will be like green, or at the end they will dry, but they will be still here. Bracts will also be still here. These guys, they will fall off in a day or two. Anthers will fall off, and the whole umbrella with everything will stay here. So if you mark anything on the flower, you can mark on the sepals, maybe even write on them with like a marker that's UV and water resistant and like whatever. Maybe just make a notch or a hole. Maybe that would be the easiest. Or you can mark here. Don't cut into this part, because obviously the pollen that you just put here needs to go all the way across this vein. It needs to grow into the capsule, into the ovary, and get to those ovules to pollinate them. Again, they do some weird stuff in there, but again, let's just leave it. Plants are weird. Yeah, so this is about pollination. Now we can actually look at a few different examples of flowers. Yeah, so this one here is a hybrid. It's a hybrid between Purpurea, Flava, and I think Leucophila also, or something else. Like, it's a triple hybrid. It has really big flowers. So hybrids are somewhere between the parent species in flower, color and shape and everything. But then, of course, if you have pure species, you may even be able to determine what they are. For example, this flower is really unmistakable. It's red, dark red, so it's one of the Sarracenia rubras. There's 4 or 5 of them, and out of all the subspecies, there is just one with this sort of petals, with this notch. This is Sarracenia rubra rubra. Also, this one and another one, I can't really remember right now which one, they smell like raspberries. All Sarracenia flowers have a nice smell, but you need to get really close in there to smell it. This one is really raspberry flavored, basically. And then this, yeah, also, of course, since we have rubra, and I said it's a red flower, then we have something interesting right here. I don't know if it will even reach up here. We have a green flower. This is Sarracenia gulfensis. So why is it green and not red like this one? This is, it is a gulfensis, but it's a variety that is antho-free, so it doesn't have any of the red pigments. That's why the flower is green, not even yellow. Not even yellow. You see, this guy here is yellow. This guy, big guy here. This one is just green. So all the varieties or forms, more correctly, forms that are antho-free, anthocyanin-free, they will flower green. If they flower any other color, then they are not all green or antho-free or however they call them. Yeah, this. Then we can take a closer look at this big guy. These huge yellow flowers, they are very, very conspicuous for one species. That's Sarracenia flava. Flava meaning yellow, of course. So all 5 varieties, they have yellow flowers. Some are a little bit reddish or even orangey or gold yellow or something, but they are all yellow like this. And you can see this color variation, actually variation in color and size. You can see this in the crosses. Anything with rubra will have smaller flowers. Anything with, and red probably, or orangey or something. Anything with flava will have like bigger flowers that may or may not be yellow. This nice guy here that we see, this is another hybrid. Very cute one. Very typical flowers, like this sort of elongated shape. They remind me like of a jellyfish. But then again, when I say this, I mean they are all pretty similar, so you need to be a little bit weird to say this. Yeah, anyways, this is Sarracenia wrigleyana. This is the cross between Psittacina and Leucophila. Psittacina has red flowers and Leucophila has red flowers. So obviously the cross looks very similar. And then we have also flower shape mutants. And these mutants, they can be just, you know, occasional. There's always a mistake in development. Like, for example, I found one here. If we look from up here, we see all 5 sepals. But if we look from here, we see that these 2 leaves, they are connected. They are like Siamese leaves. And this is just a little mistake that happens during the flower development. It's nothing genetic, and it's not really something that would be inherited, obviously, because I have on the same plant, you see, same plant here, there is another flower, and this one is perfectly correct. But this one has this. So what is this in this case? This is a petal in the right place, but then this sepal developed here, one extra sepal that is connected to the petal. It really looks weird. Something that maybe I will even keep like for a herbarium specimen. I'm looking how it looks inside here. It's really interesting how they are connected. It looks like even there is like a third leaf or something. How can I show you this? Like there is a third leaf trying to be in here. And the rest of the flower is perfectly fine. Okay, then there is another one. This is Sarracenia leucophila tarnok. It's the first leucophila that started flowering this year. This mutation is genetic, so this plant, all flowers will be like this, but it cannot be passed down to its progeny because this clone is incapable of producing seeds. Why? Because of the specifics of what this mutation is. I'll try to, you don't see, it's like off camera, but like this is, the phone is just attached to the table and I'm trying somehow to put the plant on it so I can show you. Okay, I think this will work without breaking anything because this is really beautiful. So Sarracenia leucophila tarnok. This thing, I posted a picture on Instagram a while ago and I like announced this video. This thing actually shows or demonstrates the evolution of the flower and what the origins of the flower actually are. So that basically the whole flower is just a stem with leaves. So any plant in the world, literally any plant, it's made out of three parts, out of roots, stems and leaves, and they are always connected in such a way that the stem is between the roots and the leaves, and on the stem there can only be leaves or obviously below roots. You can't have like some mix or roots growing out of leaves or whatever. I mean, it is possible, but on a fully developed plant, no. So basically, I know this sounds a little bit weird. I'll try to explain as simple as possible. So stem, flower stem in this case, stem can be, it can be a trunk of a tree, it can be like stem of a corn plant, it can be like stem of a daisy, it can just be a stem of Sarracenia. So we see the bracts. Bracts are normal. And then after the bracts we see the stem and we see like a whirl of leaves, literally whirl of leaves on the stem. So this just really demonstrates that the stem in evolution just shortened, bringing all the leaves together, and slowly these leaves evolved different functions. So the sepals that protect the flowers, petals that attract pollinators, and inside even the male and the female parts that accommodate the pollen and the ovules, or like oh, what would we call them? Yoi, what is the English name? Just not Seminska Sosnova, basically like the female parts, whatever. So anyways, this mutation is called by gardeners flore pleno mutation, just full flower mutation. A lot of flowers have this, but this one is, as far as I know, the only one in Sarracenia. So it just means that all the flower parts are multiplied and they all look more or less the same, and the anthers are missing because they are developed back into like leaf type of things, and the style is missing also again because it's like just developed back into leaf type things. So we have something in the beginning that looks like sepals, and as we go into the flower we can open this and we see that it's like it's all mutated. You see, this is where the ovary should be, this is this at the end, this should be the umbrella. Here these guys, these are probably supposed to be anthers, but they are not, they are just leaves. And even further, like in the middle of this umbrella, we have just another leaf coming out. So all the flower parts just reverted back to being leaves, more or less. Even here we have, you see, we even have, let me try to focus this, zoom it a little bit. We even have something that is trying to be a style. Come on, just you can't see really well, unfortunately. Yeah, here, this little white dot here, it's not an insect or anything. This is really trying to be a style, but it's just not functional, because again, even if it would be receptive to pollen, in here where the ovary is supposed to be is just this weird structure that doesn't do anything. So Sarracenia leucophila tarnok, it demonstrates that the flower in flowering plants is basically just a stem with leaves that evolved its function of keeping the reproductive cells a little bit safer and in a better position to attract pollinators. Again, what does this sort of remind us of? Maybe like a pine cone or magnolia flower. This may sound exotic, but basically magnolia is flower, but even a pine cone basically is just something similar, just a stem with leaves. A bit more primitive, and this is a bit more mutated, but it just shows the process from just an ordinary green stem with leaves to a structure like this that we call a flower. Okay, I hope you found this interesting. I hope I explained it like at least half decent. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing and follow us for more. Thank you and see you next time.